As a kid, few things were more satisfying than seeing your favorite comic book superhero come to life in animated form. And no one did this more than Batman, aka the Dark Knight, the Caped Crusader, the world's greatest detective. By being adapted into virtually every form of media imaginable, Batman has become more than simply DC Comics' most popular character, but a global pop culture phenomenon, transcending his comic book origins and in the process becoming one of the highest grossing media franchises of all time. In particular, Batman has established himself as a cinematic icon on both the big and small screens, and he, together with the rest of the Bat family, as well as the infamous Rogues Gallery, have become mainstays in the world of animation, beginning with Batman's small screen debut in the late 1960s. Welcome back to Toon Raider. Today, we are tracking the long and colourful history as well as the development and evolution of the animated Batman, from the golden age of television to the turn of the century and beyond. The characters of Bruce Wayne and Batman were created by the artist Bob Kane and writer Bill Finger, and debuted in the 27th issue of the comic book Detective Comics on March 30, 1939, before appearing in a spin-off comic, Batman, in April 1940, 1 month after the first appearance of Batman's new sidekick, Robin the Boy Wonder. The dynamic duo then appeared in the 15-chapter theatrical serial Batman in 1943 and its sequel in 1949, both of which were successful, and in 1966 inspired the action comedy Lampoon series Batman and its theatrical feature film spin-off, starring Adam West and Burt Ward, playing the roles of Batman and Robin respectively. The animated opening sequence is technically the first time Batman ever appeared in animated form. Filmation Associates was founded in 1962 and had enjoyed some mild successes in the early days until the studio got its big break in 1966 when it was approached by DC Comics editor Mort Weisinger to produce a Superman cartoon, which was subsequently broadcast on CBS as part of the studio's broader Superhero Morning initiative for Saturday mornings. An effort was made to stay true to its comic book counterparts. Filmation employed the services of several DC Comics writers and also recruited actors Clayton Bud Collier and Joan Alexander, veterans of the Superman radio show and the Max Fleischer Superman cartoons of the 1940s. The New Adventures of Superman debuted in September 1966 and was extremely popular in its Saturday morning time slot. And almost exactly 1 year later, a second season debuted, adding several other DC Comics superheroes to the lineup, including Aquaman, Flash Gordon, and Green Lantern. The title was expanded to the Superman-Aquaman Hour of Adventure, and the series comprised rotating segments of cartoons featuring these superheroes. And Season 3, which debuted 1 year later, finally saw the animation debut of Batman, who was added to the lineup alongside Robin and Batgirl, and the Batman-Superman Hour premiered on September 14, 1968, which featured original Batman animated segments in between new segments of Superman and Superboy. Despite ABC's enormous success from the live-action Batman series, the network failed to secure the animation rights to Batman, and CBS bought the rights instead. And what would become the Batman-Superman Hour required Filmation to pull as many additional animators from other projects as they could spare to ramp up production. The premise of the show followed the classic Batman format as seen in his comic book counterparts, featuring the eponymous hero fighting crime in Gotham City, assisted by Robin and sometimes Batgirl, while encountering the classic Rogues Gallery, which included the Joker, the Penguin, Riddler, Mr. Freeze, and Catwoman, as well as other villains exclusive to the series. This series was the first time Olin Soul and Casey Kasem performed as the voices of Batman and Robin, and the two would return several times to reprise their roles throughout the 1970s and 1980s. 34 episodes were produced in total, and in 1969 the series was repackaged into 30-minute episodes without the Superman segments, and renamed Batman with Robin the Boy Wonder. Olin Soul and Casey Kasem would reprise their roles of Batman and Robin in 2 episodes of Hanna-Barbera's The New Scooby-Doo movies, the first coming in 1972 in the episode The Dynamic Scooby-Doo Affair, which marked one of the very first crossover episodes in cartoon history and the first to feature characters developed by 2 different animation studios appearing in the same episode. The episode also featured Ted Knight and Larry Storch reprising their roles as the Penguin and the Joker, respectively. Rights to the DC Comics characters reverted from Filmation to Hanna-Barbera at the time, and would remain with the studio as Hanna-Barbera developed Super Friends, which debuted in 1973 and would feature voice talents from the previous Filmation adaptations of Batman, Superman, and Aquaman. The Super Friends functioned as a child-friendly version of the Justice League of America, who headquartered themselves inside of the Hall of Justice, a centrally located fortress set within the confines of Metropolis, as the heroes routinely monitored global catastrophes with the aid of an automated warning system called the Trouble Alert. The first incarnation of Super Friends lasted only 1 season and was cancelled in 1974 after 16 episodes. But in 1977, Filmation picked up the reins again to launch the New Adventures of Batman. This time, however, Batman and Robin were voiced by Adam West and Burt Ward respectively, who reprised their roles from the live-action Batman series of the 1960s, as Olin Soul and Casey Kasem were still contracted to Hanna-Barbera. The New Adventures of Batman served as a spiritual successor to Filmation's earlier Batman series, retaining most of the character designs, although the more sophisticated animation technique of rotoscoping, tracing the characters' movements over live-action footage, was used to give the characters a more fluid movement. Added to the lineup was Batmite, voiced by none other than Filmation producer Lo Scheimer, a well-meaning imp from another dimension who had made sporadic appearances in Batman and Detective Comics during the 1960s and who considers himself Batman's biggest fan. Notably missing was Alfred Pennyworth, the faithful butler of Batman's alter ego Bruce Wayne, making this the only Batman adaptation where he's not present in any shape or form. Additionally, the Joker was often accompanied by a laughing hyena, which he affectionately named Giggles, and the New Adventures of Batman would also mark the first appearance of Clayface outside of the comics. Even though the Super Friends was cancelled after only 1 season, mainstream interest in superheroes rose around this time due to the ever-increasing abundance of live-action adaptations, such as the weekly TV series Wonder Woman and The Incredible Hulk, and blockbuster feature films like Superman the Movie. As a result, Hanna-Barbera's Super Friends series would be given a second chance in 1977 with the all-new Super Friends Hour, which was produced alongside Filmation's The New Adventures of Batman, marking a rare occurrence in animation history which saw 2 studios simultaneously producing series featuring the same characters. Aside from the fact that Batman and Robin were voiced by different actors in each series, certain villains like the Riddler and Scarecrow were off-limits to Filmation, as Hanna-Barbera already had the rights to the characters for Challenge of the Super Friends, though the Riddler does appear in the opening credits of the show. This is also the reason why the Joker could not appear in Challenge of the Super Friends, though he was planned as a Legion of Doom member. The Challenge of the Super Friends was followed by several reboots on an almost annual basis that lasted until 1985, and over the course of a decade, the series ran through several iterations and many title changes, such as the all-new Super Friends Hour, Challenge of the Super Friends, The World's Greatest Super Friends, the Legendary Superpowers Show, and Superpowers Team, Galactic Guardians, all of which featured Batman and Robin as central characters in the Justice League, and who were voiced by Olin Soul and Casey Kasem in all but the final series. The final release in the Super Friends series, the Superpowers Team Galactic Guardians, debuted in 1985 and was notable for a number of reasons. The animation was improved, most notably Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman looked more like their DC Comics versions, since the style guide illustrated by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez in 1982 was heavily used for this series. The The series was also notable for having Adam West, star of the 1960s live-action Batman series, replace Olan Sohn as the voice actor for Batman. And finally, the series also depicted Batman's origin for the first time in any media outside of comics. An hallucinatory flashback sequence in the episode The Fear shows Thomas and Martha Wayne being confronted by an unidentified mugger just after watching a Robin Hood movie with their small son Bruce, after which his parents are shot and killed by the mugger, later identified as Joe Chill. The episode was written by Alan Burnett, later story editor on Batman the Animated Series, and also featured a lengthy appearance of Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson outside their respective Batman and Robin personas. Over time, the humor of the Super Friends series was gradually reduced, and the drama, the physical altercations, and the comic book mythology grew into something more authentic, thanks in part to writers who understood the source material. As a result, it led to much more faithful adaptations of DC Comics characters in the following decades, in what became a series of animated shows collectively known as the DC Animated Universe, and which began in 1992 with Batman the Animated Series. In 1990, following the success of Tim Burton's 1989 blockbuster Batman film, Warner Brothers employees Bruce Timm and Eric Radomski, who had previously worked together on Tiny Toon Adventures, started developing a new Batman animated series for Warner Brothers Animation to be aired on Fox Kids. Timm and Radomski designed the series by closely emulating the Tim Burton films, and were also inspired by the Superman cartoons of the 1940s by incorporating period features such as black and white title cards and the 1940s era influenced fashion, architecture, police, and vehicle designs set to a vintage color scheme in a largely film noir influenced style. This distinctive visual combination of film noir imagery and art deco designs with a very dark color scheme was called Dark Deco by the producers. The series initially took as its iconic theme song a variation of music written by Danny Elfman for Burton's Batman film. Later episodes of the series used a new theme with a similar style by Shirley Walker. The series was notable for its considerable voice acting talent. Kevin Conroy was cast as Bruce Wayne and Batman in his first voice acting role, and was notably the first voice actor to alter his voice tone between portraying Batman and Bruce Wayne, which Michael Keaton had previously done in Tim Burton's live-action Batman films. However, Conroy based his dual voice performance on Leslie Howard in the 1934 film The Scarlet Pimpernel. After Tim Curry developed bronchitis during the initial recording sessions, the role of the Joker was ultimately given to Mark Hamill, best known for playing Luke Skywalker in the original Star Wars trilogy. Hamill's prominence as a voice actor was heightened through his role of the Joker, and the actor credits the laugh he had honed on stage in Amadeus with landing him the role. One of the series' best-known inventions was the Joker's assistant, Harley Quinn, who became so popular that DC Comics later added her to mainstream comic book continuity. The appearance of the Penguin was remodeled after the version seen in Batman Returns, which was in production simultaneously with the series' first season. New life was also given to lesser-known characters for the series, and in addition, dramatic changes were made to other villains such as K-Face and Mr. Freeze, the latter of whom was changed from a gimmicky mad scientist to a more forlorn, tragic figure. Batman the Animated Series was an immediate success, and to this day still holds a perfect score on Rotten Tomatoes. The series was nominated for and won numerous Emmy Awards during the years it was on the air, as critics unanimously praised the series for its mature tone, storytelling, voice acting, visual aesthetic, and faithfulness to the source material, while Kevin Conroy's performance as Batman and Mark Hamill's portrayal of the Joker were both singled out for acclaim. The animated series is hailed as a landmark of animated television, particularly in the superhero genre, reimagining Gotham City through a film noir lens and modernizing Batman into a contemporary animated format. The series ran from 1992 to 1995, and midway through the series run, it was retitled The Adventures of Batman and Robin. It also spawned 2 animated feature films, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, released in 1993, and Batman and Mr. Freeze, Sub-Zero, released in 1998. While the new Batman Adventures, which ran from 1997 to 1999, was a continuation of Batman the Animated Series and the 3rd series in total in the DC Animated Universe. The new Batman Adventures was revamped from Batman the Animated Series, replacing its art style with streamlined designs to allow for more consistent animation and maintain similarity with the simultaneously running Superman the Animated Series. And stories in this series tended to give more focus to Batman's supporting characters, which include fellow crime fighters Robin, Nightwing, and Batgirl, among others. The show also featured guest characters such as Supergirl, Etrigan the Demon, and the Creeper. In 1999, the creators behind Batman the Animated Series produced Batman Beyond, set in the not-so-distant future. The story begins in the then future year of 2019, when an aging Bruce Wayne, despite being in his 50s, continues to fight crime as Batman in a new high-tech batsuit, although with increased difficulty. By this point in his life, his butler Alfred Pennyworth has died, his rogues gallery are all either in prison, institutionalized, reformed, or deceased, and Batman has also severed his ties with other superheroes. The story then moves forward 20 years later in Neo-Gotham, a futuristic version of Gotham City, where Bruce Wayne is now in his 70s, and the role of Batman has been assumed by Terry McGinnis, an athletic 16-year-old high school student and reformed juvenile delinquent who is mentored by Bruce Wayne in the ways of the Dark Knight, and who forges new alliances and battles new enemies in the futuristic Gotham City. Bruce Wayne was once again voiced by Kevin Conroy, while Will Friedle made his voice acting debut as the role of Terry McGinnis and Batman. And despite Batman Beyond being conceived as a child-friendly Batman series by Warner Bros. Animation, it ended up being darker than its predecessor, Batman the Animated Series. It also abandoned the neo-noir style of the previous series and adopted a more cyberpunk aesthetic. And while it received mixed reviews from critics, it was still popular enough to run for 3 seasons and develop a cult following over the years. Both Kevin Conroy and Will Friedle reprised their roles as Bruce Wayne and the Terry McGinnis incarnation of Batman respectively, as the two made cameo appearances in the 8th episode of The Zeta Project, a Batman Beyond spin-off series released in 2001, which centered around the Batman Beyond character Infiltration Unit Zeta. And later that year, Batman the Animated Series creator Bruce Timm developed Justice League, an animated series focusing on DC Comics' famous team of superheroes. Kevin Conroy once again voiced the role of Batman, and Batman's costume was redesigned as a combination of his last 3 costumes. The same costume from the new Batman Adventures was retained, but with the blue highlights from the Batman the Animated Series costume and the long ears from the Batman Beyond costume were added to this costume. This time, however, unlike the Super Friends segments of the 1970s and 1980s, Batman was not joined by the boy wonder, Robin. Batman and Robin would both appear in the 2nd season premiere of Static Shock, another DC Comics animated series based on the superhero Static. Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill would both reprise their voicing of Batman and the Joker respectively, and Robin was voiced by Eli Marienthal, who would voice the character again in later appearances. The episode The Big League saw Static teaming up with Batman and Robin to defeat the Joker, and which marked a darker, more mature direction of the show from that episode onwards. Justice League Unlimited debuted in 2004 and ended in 2006, becoming the 8th and final series of the DC animated universe, and served as the conclusion to a shared universe which began with Batman the Animated Series. Notably, it is the most continuity-heavy show of the DC animated universe, and weaves together characters and plot lines from past series. Kevin Conroy reappears as Batman, and alongside the name change, the show features a greatly expanded league, in which the characters from the original series, now referred to as founding members with Batman at the forefront, are joined by many other superheroes from the DC universe, including the Terry McGinnis incarnation of Batman from Batman Beyond. The Batman debuted in September 2004 towards the end of the 3rd season of Justice League Unlimited, at which point certain characters became off-limits to the show, particularly characters associated with Batman. And those who appeared in Batman the Animated Series, aside from Batman himself, were restricted due to the unrelated animated series The Batman and Christopher Nolan's live-action The Dark Knight trilogy, in order to avoid continuity confusion, thus leading to the popular term known as Bat Embargo. The Batman was the first Batman animated series since 1992 not to be developed by Bruce Timm, as he was at that point involved with Justice League Unlimited, and instead was developed by Michael Goguen and the Emmy Award-winning Dwayne Capizzi, who had worked on a number of shows dating back to the late 1980s in varying capacities. The Batman was also the first time since 1992 that the Caped Crusader was not voiced by Kevin Conroy, who did however make a cameo appearance alongside Mark Hamill in the first episode of Season 4, entitled A Matter of Family, in which Conroy played the role of Dick Grayson's father, while Hamill played the role of Tony Zuko, the killer of Dick Grayson's parents. Instead, Batman was voiced by Rino Romano, who had previously voiced Spider-Man in various releases. Many elements from previous Batman storylines were borrowed and adapted, such as those from the comic books, film series, and the animated shows like Batman the Animated Series from the DC Animated Universe, but it remained strictly within its own distinct continuity, while the production team also altered the appearances of many of the comic book supervillains for the show, such as the Joker, the Penguin, Mr. Freeze, Bane, and the Riddler. The Batman ran for 65 episodes over 5 seasons, and the series won 6 Daytime Emmy Awards over the course of its run. In October 2008, Batman the Brave and the Bold debuted on Cartoon Network and was based on the classic DC Comics series The Brave and the Bold, which featured 2 or more superheroes coming together to solve a crime or foil a supervillain. Having previously voiced the character Zeta in Batman Beyond and various other characters in The Batman, Diedrich Bader this time voiced Batman himself and would return to the role on multiple occasions in the future. The show had no overarching story, instead having most episodes stand alone and focused on Batman's regular team-ups with various heroes, similar to the most well-known version of the original comic book series. Batman the Brave and the Bold was lighter in tone than previous Batman series, depicting the Dark Knight as more light-hearted and playful, with a dry, ironic wit. The show featured numerous references to various depictions of Batman in media, including the 1960s Batman TV series, and also tended to focus on lesser-known characters, particularly those that were repeatedly teamed with Batman in the 1970s run of the Brave and the Bold comic book, such as Green Arrow, Wildcat, Plastic Man, and even the Joker, giving the characters an appearance and feel akin to both their Golden and Silver Age incarnations. At one point, Batman even teamed up with Scooby-Doo and Mystery Incorporated to defeat the Joker and the Penguin in a retelling of the 2 similar crossovers from the new Scooby-Doo movies. Batman the Brave and the Bold ended in 2014 after 3 seasons, and Batman would team up with Scooby-Doo and Mystery Incorporated once again in 2018 in the feature-length crossover film Scooby-Doo and Batman, The Brave and the Bold. In 2013, while Batman the Brave and the Bold was still on the air, another Batman animated series debuted, Beware the Batman, also on Cartoon Network, and which returned the Batman mythos to a darker and more serious tone. This transition was even noted in the final episode of Batman the Brave and the Bold, as Batmite, returning for the first time since Filmation's New Adventures of Batman ended in 1977, feels that the show has jumped the shark and concocts a scheme to make it so bad that the network will have to cancel the show to make way for a darker one, i.e. Beware the Batman. This time, Batman was voiced by Anthony Rui Bivar, and Beware the Batman took place during Bruce Wayne's early years as Batman, following his initial period of battling organized crime in Gotham City. Throughout the series, he hones his combative skills with the assistance of his butler, Alfred, who introduces Bruce to his goddaughter, Tatsu Yamashiro, a martial artist and sword mistress hired to act as his bodyguard, as well as Batman's partner under the codename of Katana. The criminal underworld of Gotham at this point is led by a number of well-known Rogue Gallery members such as Ra's al Ghul and Killer Croc, as well as lesser-known villains such as Anarchy, Magpie, and Humpty Dumpty. Beware the Batman was mysteriously pulled from Cartoon Network's schedule 4 months after its premiere without official explanation, and after a lengthy hiatus, the remaining episodes of the series began to air on Adult Swim's Toonami programming block from July 27 to September 28, 2014, with a total of 26 episodes having aired altogether. Mattel's Batman Unlimited line of action figures inspired a series of 3 direct-to-video animated films: Animal Instincts, Monster Mayhem, and Max vs. Mutants, released from 2015 to 2016. Roger Craig Smith voiced the role of Batman in these adaptations. Around the same period, Batman Unlimited also produced 33 online shorts, which can be found on DC Kids' YouTube channel and Tubi. The Justice League returned to our screens in 2016 in Justice League Action, which saw Kevin Conroy voicing Batman for the final time. Bat Wheels is an ongoing preschool animated series which debuted in 2022 and which sees the Bat family's vehicles brought to life by the Bat computer to form the Bat Wheels, a team led by the Batmobile, or BAN, to fight crime in Gotham City. Bruce Wayne and Batman are voiced by Ethan Hawke, but take a backseat in this series as the Batmobile is the driving force in this series, starring as the insecure leader of the Batwheels. And that brings us to 2024, which saw the return of Batman the Animated Series creator Bruce Timm to develop Batman Caped Crusader, which premiered on August 1st. Starring Hamish Linklater as the voice of the titular character, Batman Caped Crusader is in many ways a spiritual return to the animated Batman series of the early 1990s, once again reimagining the Batman mythos through a retro, neo-noir, dark deco lens, and this time focusing on a young Bruce Wayne during the early stages of his crime-fighting career in Gotham City, with Batman's black and grey costume design drawing inspiration from his early Golden Age incarnation. The series is noted for its serialized storytelling, focusing on episodic detective cases that build up to a larger narrative over the season, as Caped Crusader explores Batman's struggle against corruption and crime, including a corrupt police force, rampant gang warfare, as well as Gotham City's campaign to capture the Batman. Psychological profiles are given to many of Batman's allies, including James and Barbara Gordon and Renee Montoya, while the series attempts new interpretations of classic villains like Catwoman, Clayface, the Penguin, and Harley Quinn, and a season-long story arc is given to District Attorney Harvey Dent, who is later transformed into Two-Face. Caped Crusader is one of the more mature animated adaptations of Batman, and reviews have been mostly good, with critics praising its art style, character development, and complex storytelling. Aside from these numerous animated series, Batman has also appeared in a number of animated feature films, only some of which were aimed at a younger audience. The first came in 1993. Batman Mask of the Phantasm was also the first film of the DC animated universe and the only one to receive a theatrical release. In 2016, Batman fans were treated to the animated feature film Batman the Killing Joke, which was based on Alan Moore and Brian Boland's iconic 1988 graphic novel of the same name. The Killing Joke was originally intended to be released directly on home video, but, due to its popularity, was instead released simultaneously in theaters and digitally, and became the 9th highest grossing R-rated animated film worldwide. Later that year saw the release of Batman Return of the Caped Crusaders, based on the 1960s Batman TV series and starring the voices of Adam West, Burt Ward, and Julie Newmarth, reprising their roles of Batman, Robin, and Catwoman from the series. Aside from these theatrical releases, at least 24 animated films starring Batman were released directly to video, and in addition, The Dark Knight has appeared in at least 27 other direct-to-video animated releases, alongside other characters from the DC Comics universe, as well as Mystery Incorporated and even the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Batman Gotham Knight was a Japanese-American animated anthology of original shorts released in 2008 with Kevin Conroy voicing Batman, while 2020 saw the release of Batman Death in the Family, an interactive short film based on the story arc from the comics that allows the viewer to choose different outcomes of the story, featuring Bruce Greenwood voicing Batman. In 2014, a Lego-themed version of Batman appeared in the Lego Movie, voiced by Will Arnett, who then reprised the role in 2017 in his own spin-off film, the Lego Batman Movie. Again in 2019 in the Lego Movie 2, the second part, and then reprised the role once again later that year in the Unikitty episode, Bat Kitty. In addition, Batman has made many animated cameo appearances since the early 90s. The Caped Crusader could be seen in the 1990 Tiny Toon Adventures episode Gangbusters, before Plucky played a parody of Batman in the episode New Class Day as Bat-Duck, a member of the Just Us League of Super Toons. In 1995, an animated Batman could be seen alongside Dick Grayson and the Riddler in the music video for Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me, a song by Irish rock band U2 from the soundtrack album for the film Batman Forever. Batman could be seen briefly in the very first Freakazoid episode, Dance of Doom, before Adam West reprised his role as Batman in the 2002 episode of The Simpsons entitled Large Marge. Batman would appear multiple times in Mad, a series based on the popular Mad magazine, where he was voiced by different actors including Kevin Shinnick, Diedrich Bader, Hugh Davidson, and Chris Cox, while Seth Green voiced the Dark Knight in his numerous appearances in Robot Chicken. In 2019, Batman teamed up with Mystery Incorporated once again in the Scooby-Doo and Guess Who episode, What a Night for a Dark Knight. Batman could be seen in the animated end credits of the live-action film Shazam, before the Dark Knight was voiced by Jorma Taccone for his cameo appearance in the 2022 live-action animated hybrid feature film Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. It comes as no surprise to see Batman making appearances in other DC Comics-related animated series and feature films, often alongside or even opposite Superman, starting with the 1996 Superman animated series in the memorable 3-part episode World's Finest. As a founding member of the Justice League, Batman would make regular appearances in the 2010 series Young Justice after assembling the eponymous young superhero team, while several references to Batman were made in various Teen Titans productions, including actual appearances of his, notably in the Teen Titans Go episode Real Origins, as well as Teen Titans Go to the Movies, where he was voiced by late-night talk show host Jimmy Kimmel. Diedrich Bader returned to voice Batman and Bruce Wayne in the 2023 spin-off series Harley Quinn, while the Dark Knight was voiced by Keith Ferguson in his cameo appearances in the Cartoon Network series DC Superhero Girls, and by Keanu Reeves in the 2022 animated feature film DC League of Super Pets. In total, there have been 10 animated Batman series, 30 animated films, and countless other supporting roles and cameos by the Batman. In addition, 28 different voice actors have voiced Batman over the years. But having voiced Batman for dozens of animated television series, feature films, and video games since 1992, in total Kevin Conroy portrayed the character longer than any other actor in live action and animation. Kevin Conroy may no longer be with us, but for me, he will always be the voice of Batman, and I dedicate this video to his memory. Let me know in the comments if Batman the Animated Series was also your favorite, and if you can remember, what was the first episode you ever watched? Perhaps you preferred another animated series or film adaptation of Batman, and also let us know if you're old enough to remember the Filmation series of the 1960s and 1970s. I hear another animated series titled Bat Family is scheduled for release on Amazon sometime next year, which is hopefully something to look forward to. And in the meantime, let us know what you think of the first season of Batman Caped Crusader. I really appreciate you watching this video to the end. Please like it if you learned something today, and feel free to share it with your friends. Both of those things would go a long way to supporting this channel. I'll be back again soon, so until then, stay safe and stay tuned for more cartoon history.